Thank you everyone, and the topic, as you all know, is democratization of AI. We've finished 75 years of this democracy, but when it comes to the pivotal moment of AI, the moot question is who owns AI? And there are many paths to AI. There's compute infrastructure, there's data modeling, there's copyright issues, there's even talent. So there's multiple areas where democratization needs to step in. And for me, the first question to you, Dr. Sikka, is AI kiska hai? Who owns AI?
Well, we own AI, of course. It is.
When we say we, is the humanity race or is it we Indians?
The, the, that's a great question. Let me put it like this. What is it? I think we have to start with what is AI. Large language models are, in a sense, a compression of a large amount of knowledge. A large amount of human knowledge gets stored in some way. We know that it is compressed because the size of the models, even though they are enormous models, it is much smaller than the size of the data, of the knowledge of the data. We also know that it is approximate because they don't give exactly the answers that were inside the data, but some way of approximation, sometimes with hallucinations. And so it is what we have built, what collectively society has built, is a very powerful technology that is able to compress a vast amount of knowledge, and it is able to regurgitate that in a very conversational way. You can have a authentic conversation in Gujarati or in Bengali or in English or French or whatever. And so the question is, whose data is that? Obviously, companies like yourselves are worried about, copyrights and things like that. Every time we engage with AI and we give it a piece of our lives, we are sharing a bit of us into the AI. And so in a sense, it is a collective compression of the world's knowledge. So it, in some sense, belongs to all of us. And yet it, of course, belongs to a handful of frontier labs and so on.
So is it a blockchain kind of ledger method where everyone has contributed to it, so everyone owns a part of it?
People are working on that, on decentralized AI and various other forms of new techniques. But the popular techniques that we have today are basically these large models, which are compressions of a vast amount of information. So, you were talking about 75 years of democracy. One, we have to create a vast amount of literacy with AI in India, so that a very large number of people, more than 1 billion people, are able to leverage this technology and are able to thrive because of this technology. And the question comes, how will we do that when we don't even have access to the large language models and things like that? And I think that I went back to, somebody asked me this earlier today, and I went back to the Green Revolution. One of my earliest memories is I was probably 2 years old when the war, that created Bangladesh happened. 2 or maybe 3, something like this. And I have this memory of my parents. They were very worried about, there was a ship that was bringing some wheat from the United States, and that ship was not being allowed to come to shore because of the ceasefire agreement. And so they were waiting for the ceasefire to happen so that the ship would then come into the shore and we would get wheat. And my parents were genuinely worried whether we will have food to eat or not. From that time, and I remember when I was 19, I went to the United States. On the flight, the Air India flight to New York, the butter and the cheese used to be from like New Zealand or Holland, places like that. Within 3 or 4 years after that, you would get Amul butter or Vijaya butter from the south and so on. So how did that happen? Basically within one generation, in my parents' lifetime, we went from this point where a ship literally carrying gehu was, our ability to eat was dependent on whether the ship was going to come to shore or not, to the time where we became the largest exporter of
supplier of butter.
Of butter and wheat and all this. We are also one of the largest suppliers of wheat now.
Yeah.
So how can that happen? And that, if you look back at the Green Revolution and how we managed to produce farmers who can create these kinds of crops and create self-sufficiency. So if we can do that, you better believe we can bring 1 billion people into the world of AI. So it can be done. The question is, are we able to see the goals in the same way that we saw back then, and are we able to set these goals? And I think that when you look at what the government is doing, it is really inspiring. The goals that we have set, arguably we are the leading country from the point of view of government's involvement in AI. No other government seems to me to be as far ahead on AI as our government is.
This summit is a testimony to that.
The summit, it's such a vast scale at which we are celebrating AI that it is really impressive. So I feel very hopeful that we can create a very large democratized culture where AI empowers people.
I guess Dr. Sikka's message is, आपने हमारा मक्खन खाया, अब थोड़ा AI चख के देख लीजिए.
No, I think no, that's a great point, and I think we have very clearly seen that people who use AI can do amazing things. People who use AI, people who understand AI and its limitations and its capabilities and build things with it are able to do extraordinary things. And can we, my company works in this area, Vandana's company works in this area, a couple of the colleagues are here. She has built this app where you can have people who can share their knowledge augmented by AI and share that with other people in a very authentic way. So I feel very hopeful.
Right. Small, information. His company is Y&I. It's Vishal, Vandana, his wife, and his son also, Warren. So it's like triple V on acceleration. We talked about democratization of AI. It starts with compute power. Is there a shortcut method instead of having guzzling data centers with energy, water, so much of energy requirement or infrastructure requirement? Can AI solve for energy requirement of its own, for its own?
It's a tool. It is like would you ask a hammer, hey man, can you solve your own energy problem? I think that we have to look at it in two different ways. One way is the situation today. The situation today is AI is incredibly power hungry. ChatGPT, the original GPT-3 based ChatGPT took something like 1.3 gigawatt hours of training. So it is a really massive amount of compute, and our government has been working to procure resources. So far, I think it's somewhere in the neighborhood of 60,000 GPUs that we have. By the end of this year, our goal is to get to 200,000 GPUs, that is wonderful. Of course, at the same time, OpenAI alone last year had 1 million GPUs. And so it is a very difficult situation, and I think we have to fight and we have to get it, and which the government is doing better than pretty much anybody else. And so we have to bring access to this. We have to bring these resources and make them available to startups, to people, to schools, things like that. But at the same time, I was, yesterday, there is a gentleman who has been assigned by the organizers to accompany me to different places. And this poor guy was walking so much, he walked 32,000 steps yesterday. And I asked him towards the evening, when he was so tired, I said, how much have you eaten? And he said he ate 2 burgers the whole day. And that was, 2 burgers is about 30 watts of power. So when we operate on 2,000 calories in a day, that's like 100 watts, like one of these light bulbs. And out of that, our brain is taking up 20 watts. So 20 watts, your phone, you have this 4-camera phone. When this phone is in sleep mode, that is, 20 watts is less than what this phone is consuming. So that's how our brain is working. Our perception, what I'm speaking to you, moving our hands around like this is all in basically
multisensorial processing.
Yeah. So the second way to look at it is that, we have 200,000 GPUs and it is too less and all that, but why don't we invent the next generation of AI, which is much more power efficient? When we know it is possible, just look at yourself.
Right. One last question on talent. The question is democratization of talent pool when it comes to AI. people in India are worried that should all the LLM foundational model come from there, should all the talent go there? We've had enough brain drain from here to US. Now, of course, thanks to Trump, many of our brains are wanting to be here. But, the democratization of talent, because we have huge set of GCCs today here, some fear displacement. But I remember watching your interview 2 days ago to someone, I don't want to name the brand, but you had a very different thought of why you bothered about AI displacing talent. What about AI creating many more opportunities for this very talent to take up a new job?
Yes.
Can you help us understand what you meant there?
So, whenever new media come, we cannot think of the new applications that are possible because of the new media. So some of you in the room are old enough to remember when television first came, and we used to literally have people who would, read from a piece of paper sitting on television. What is the point of the television if you are going to watch a, picture of a newsreader with a piece of paper in their hand, literally read the thing to you? You can put a picture of a person on a radio and then it is basically the same thing. But until the live events and watching cricket matches or conferences or MTV or, when these things happen, then you realize, oh wow, this is all the stuff that TV can do. Or, similarly on the phone, that it is not just that you can have the same thing that you had in your computer, now you can have in your phone, but you can actually call a cab and you can get someone to, for God's sake, bring chana bhatura in 10 minutes and...
Or deliver an emergency mobile van, for hospitals,
So right now we are in a stage where we are all so panicked about what is AI going to do with all the stuff I was going to do yesterday, and this kind of work that we have been doing so far, that we are not able to see the new applications that are possible because of this. And those applications are starting to emerge. We got a glimpse of that with this open cloud drama that happened last week. Wow, you can have agent swarms who are talking to each other and creating religions and things like this. So people are beginning to wake up to the fact that there are things that can be, in my work, I had one of my customers is in the Middle East, a distribution company. They distribute things from big brands, CPG companies. And one of the CPG companies decided to shut down their factory in one of the countries there. I won't name the country. And this customer was telling me that they could use our software to do analysis. And then as a result of that analysis, they decided to shut down their operations in this country. In 1 or 2 days of analysis, where questions, you would ask complicated questions, like what happens if the price of this goes up and that goes up here. And so I asked him, how long would it have taken you to do this otherwise? He said, maybe a year. Because you wait for the first quarter and you say, oh, things are going bad in this country. Why is that? Oh, this factory shut down. And the second quarter, it did not recover. You put some emergency measure in third quarter because you're constantly looking backwards. Instead of 1 year worth of work by expensive consultants, in a few minutes, you can do an analysis and take a unbelievably complex decision like shutting down your operations in a whole country. So there are applications, wondrous applications that are possible. We just don't see them yet. And I think that this idea that, oh my God, arey sir, mera 20 saal ka kaam disrupt ho jayega, that is a very backward
But
way
that
of
happened,
looking at
right?
things.
So pre-cloud, there were fears and that everything will be on cloud, we'll lose data sovereignty, security.
Yeah.
We found ways.
And believe me, there is no doubt it is disruptive to stuff that we did. We have seen examples of software development happening 20 times, 50 times more productively than we did before. But don't focus on what is it that it takes away, focus on what is possible with this.
Possible tomorrow. That's a great note. You talked about television guys holding a paper. I have a screen in front of me telling me 6 minutes to go for my next panel. I'm really sorry, Dr. Sikka. I'll have to end,
Awesome
but thank
to
you
see
so
that.
much.